Good morning, everybody. What's up? Happy Tuesday. Dan Kasper Show officially on the air right now on your radio dials of 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. You can stream it. Get your Google and Alexa home devices and the Sports Talk app. Video stream also up and rolling on this Tuesday morning, September 12th. Appreciate you making us a part of your starts if you're already up and at it. Where do we begin today, huh? Man, oh man. Obviously, I think the big story in the world of sports last night was the debut of Aaron Rodgers, starting quarterback for the New York Jets. And that lasted 4 plays, 4 snaps for Aaron Rodgers, and it looks like his season may already be done. Reports, Robert Saleh after the game already indicating that it's an Achilles injury. MRI will confirm what they already fear. As he said, it's not good. It's not good. So perhaps looks like the end of the season already for Aaron Rodgers. And that does affect Green Bay in terms of draft pick compensation. As we all know, part of the deal was the Packers would get the first round pick from the Jets if Aaron played 65% of the snaps. And, if Aaron's done, which it kind of looks like right now, means the Packers will get the Jets' second round pick this season. So, yeah, kind of I don't even know. Like I was watching this last night, and when it happens, and I'm just like, what is going on? Did this really happen? The man goes out there for 4 snaps, and the season potentially is over with. It's still kind of mind boggling to be honest. And I know there's some people that are making jokes about this and that sort of thing, but it's just you don't want to see guys get hurt. Let's be real. You don't want to see guys get hurt. I don't care if it's a rival. I don't care if you don't like the player. You don't want to see anybody get hurt, and especially Rodgers at this point of his career. Who knows what the future is going to be like? He's going to be 40 years old, coming back from an Achilles injury. We're actually going to be doing a little Tuesday edition of Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow coming up in about an hour, and he'll kind of potentially give us an outlook on what Rodgers' career potentially could look like, trying to come back at his age with this Achilles injury and such. But I don't know. I mean, I was kind of thinking about this last night too. What if Jets got the win last night too, even with Rodgers going out, Jets getting the win in overtime thanks to a punt return, a walk-off punt return. What if Zach Wilson goes out and balls out this year? Like, just goes out and has a really good year, leads the Jets to the postseason and deep run. First thing, that'd be like the worst case scenario for the Packers because you're already getting a second round pick. But if the Jets still make the postseason and make a deep postseason run, it's going to be a late second round pick. It's not even going to be an early second round pick. It's going to be a back end second round pick. So, one, that would be like the worst in terms if you're looking at it for draft pick compensation for the Packers. But then Zach Wilson goes out and balls out and is like, wow, okay, maybe the guy's actually turned the corner and he's playing really well. You got to make a decision on Rodgers then, don't you? I don't know. I was already thinking about next off season, what potentially it could look like and such. So, but yeah, something to kind of keep an eye on. I mean, I don't know what else you can really keep an eye on at this point because, well, if he is done for the year, and now you're kind of scoreboard watching the Jets to see how many games they're going to win and how early potentially that second round pick's going to be. But man, I mean, still, I know there was again some on social Packers fans having a little fun with it, but you don't want to cheer for people to get hurt and stuff like that. So, but we'll catch up with Dr. Crow coming up in under an hour from now, and kind of do a little outlook on potentially what this could mean maybe for Rodgers' career and such. Last night, though, too, within the state of Wisconsin, the Brewers began game one of their 4-game series against the Marlins, and starting pitching at least kind of picked up where it left off last night from the game on Sunday. Brandon Woodruff, first career complete game shutout for Brandon Woodruff. Brewers picking up the 12-0 victory last night to get their 80th win of the season. Mark Canha leading the game off with the home run. Got Josh Donaldson made his debut with the Brewers, picked up a hit. Brewers looking for some more power coming from that infield, that corner infield. So Donaldson called up, made his debut last night. But Brandon Woodruff, dude, is continuing to pitch at an incredibly high level. Missed pretty much the whole season. Got a start in April, a couple starts in there. Came back in August, and the guy he continues to look fantastic. 9 innings, 6 hits, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, no earned runs. First complete game shutout of his career. So bats finally came alive last night for the Crew. Couldn't get a run for Corbin Burns in his pursuit of a no-hitter on Sunday, but they came alive last night. Willy Adames collecting a couple doubles as well. 4 RBIs for him, 3 total hits to lead the team, along with Tyrone Taylor, who had 3 hits and a couple of RBIs there too. Brewers, 17 total hits. 17 total hits last night. So Brew Crew will try it again tonight. Strikeout Freddie on the mound for the Brewers. We'll see if the Brewers can pick up another win. They remain 3 games ahead of the Cubs. Cubs picked up the 5-4 victory against the Rockies last night. Now that we are at 19 games left in the regular season for the Crew, the magic number for the Brewers to clinch over the Cubs is 16. Still got a ways to go. So it's a combination of straight up, Brewers win 16 in a row here, they got it, or win 16 games, they got it, but it's also a combination of Brewers wins and Cubs losses right now. So that magic number is 16 with 19 games left to go here for the Brewers. Sure looks like it might come down to that final week of the regular season here at this point in time. So, but we'll recap a little bit more from the game last night. We had Brian Anderson actually got a pinch hit at bat for the first time and seems like forever, because it was forever in months. But we'll preview tonight's game too with Strikeout Freddie on the mound for the Brewers. We'll catch up with RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, the Zone in Madison. We'll get his thoughts on the loss to Washington State and look ahead to their matchup against Georgia Southern before the Badgers begin Big Ten play next Friday when they visit Purdue. When they go and visit Purdue. So RJ Cardinal, he'll be coming up at about 8:20 this morning. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday, so we'll hit that up. Little Grind My Gears. What's grinding your gears? Now is the time to let us know. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. 830-1912. Had a little bit of a brain fart over there. So what's grinding your gears? You can let us know on there, or hit us up on the video stream. Tweet it at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. So kind of a question of the day too, because I'm going to have this as a podcast segment later on. But now that week 1 is officially in the books and we had a big thing happen last night, who were your biggest winners and who were your biggest losers from week 1 in the NFL season? Biggest winners, biggest losers, biggest surprises. I guess if you want to put biggest disappointments on there, that's the best way to kind of phrase it and such. But biggest winners, biggest losers from week 1 of the NFL season. There's a few to choose from, but if you could only pick one I wanna ask you to narrow it down because we could come up with a big list, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever for each side. But kind of a question of the day here. Think about that and give me one. Just give me one from each side. The biggest winner and the biggest loser. And I want to see if we got kind of a majority in terms of one area and such. Going back to Green Bay too, we'll go over some of the comments from Matt LaFleur yesterday in his press availability. Not a not a whole lot there. Packers will be off today, and then they'll get back to practice tomorrow as they prepare for the Atlanta Falcons on the road there. So, but LaFleur did say that they're still evaluating Aaron Jones's hamstring, but that it was encouraging to see him jogging off the field. Also did help that they had the luxury that they did not have to put him back out there on the field because of the score. So, by the way, if you're into Pro Football Focus, the Pro Football Focus grades came out for Green Bay yesterday for their game. Zach Tom was the highest graded Packers offensive player, 84.8. Then it was Romeo Dobbs, David Bakhtiari, Aaron Jones, and then Samari Torre. Your top 5 defensive players. Quay Walker with a fantastic 92.1. Then it was Rashawn Gary and his limited snap count. So Gary only played he had 10 pass rushing snaps. Rashawn Gary had 10 pass rushing snaps. Of those 10, Rashawn Gary produced 5 pressures. So that front was able to generate pressure without perhaps, I mean, they did it with 5, but I mean with a limited Rashawn Gary. Imagine that front. Now, it might be a little bit of a hot take and overreaction from 1 week, and it's against the Bears' offensive line, and I understand that, and I completely get that. But if this is a glimpse of potential what this front could do, and then you add in a unleashed Rashawn Gary, hopefully that could develop into something pretty special. 3rd highest graded defensive player, Devontae Wyatt. Rasul Douglas was the 4th, and then good to see Darnell Savage was up there at the 5 spot, 5th highest graded defensive player in that game. So, but let's get things rolling here this morning. We'll kind of do a little bit of a smorgasbord of topics here. We'll see where everybody kind of leads the discussion here, but we'll take our first break here, then get the leadoff going. We'll talk some Brewers. We'll talk some football in here as well. The question of the day, give me some of your picks. The biggest winner from week 1 and the biggest loser from week 1. Now that week 1 is officially in the books. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. What's up, there, smart shoppers? Get ready to experience the ultimate grocery adventure at Hy-Vee here in Eau Claire. From fresh produce to gourmet delights, Hy-Vee is your go-to destination for quality and variety. Explore their aisles brimming with everything you need. Whether it's a family feast or a quick snack, they've got you covered. Every aisle is an adventure in good taste. And if you need a cold beverage afterwards, stop by the bar at Wahlburgers there to quench that thirst of yours with the Man Cave Light. Shop smart, shop happy, shop Hy-Vee. Elevate your shopping game at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. All right, let's get things started here this morning on the leadoff. G-Man chiming in, Captain. Hope that Rogers is okay. Sad to see last night's. Way to go, Brewers. Brewers will win the series with Miami. Go, Bucky. My biggest winners from week one is the Packers. That's kind of our little question of the day now that week one is officially in the books. Biggest winner, biggest loser. If you had to narrow it down to just one, biggest winner, biggest loser from week one of the NFL season. Looking at starting things off, chatting a little baseball here before we get back to some football talk here. Brewers picking up the 12-0 victory last night against the Marlins. Cubs just won't go away, though. Cubs won't go away. They picked up a win against the Rockies last night. So the Brewers now at 19 games left in the regular season, still up 3 over the Cubs. Magic numbers 16 here for the Brewers. So I mean, it's still a pretty high number there at this point in time. But the big thing last night, Brandon Woodruff getting his first career complete game shutout. Brandon Woodruff just looks on fire right now ever since he came back off that injured list. I mean, he has been spectacular putting together some back-to-back performances that have looked fantastic. And this, it's a big reason, you look at Corbin Burns, what he did on Sunday, strikeout Freddie. I mean, the Brewers for the last 2 months, July and August, have had the pitchers of the month. And Brandon Woodruff, if he continues to play like he has been here in September in his first couple of starts here, he may very well be on his way for a pitcher of the month award. And it's the biggest reason why, when you look at a lot of the national stuff or the chatter around the league, that there's still quite a few people saying that the Brewers could be a tough out in October. It's because of their starting pitching, led by those three that we just talked about. And then you have a Wade Miley, as your fourth guy on there. So, I mean, if these starting pitchers continue to play at that incredibly high level that they've been doing right now, you got a chance. But the wild card is always going to be this Brewers offense, right? It's always going to be this Brewers offense. Are we going to get the Brewers offense that showed up on Sunday that they can't get a run until extra innings there? Or is it going to be the offense that pops up like they did last night and putting up 12 total runs? Obviously it's going to depend on probably pitching situations and such, but you look at it in the early part of the season, most part, first half of the season, Brewers, the narrative was the offense can't hit left-handed pitching. Well, they were able to do it last night and such. So it's going to be a wild card week, day in, day out, game in, game out, whenever the postseason does start for the Crew. It's going to be kind of, a big unknown heading into this thing. But man, they can just get a little bit. They don't have to go out there and put up 12 runs in the game to win, to help out this pitching staff. They don't have to get into, shootouts essentially. Give this starting pitching staff a few runs, couple runs, few runs here, and you've got a pretty darn good chance to come away with a W, with that win. Looking at the games remaining here, you got 3 more in this series against Miami, 3 against Washington at home. Then you make that road trip, 4 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals would love nothing more than to be, ruiners or, just to be spoilers. But hey, Cardinals, Let's create an alliance here, okay? Yeah, we're going on the road to face you, but let's create an alliance here. You don't want the Cubs in the postseason. You don't want the Cubs to win the division. Let's get out, help each other out here a little bit. Just saying, beer place to beer place here. Let's help each other out. Then after that, I mean, because they got 7 games yet against the Cardinals here, so still 6 remaining. So of these 19 games left, you got 6 against Miami, 7 against the Cardinals here. So what is that? 13 of the last 19 games here against those 2 ball clubs. So, but as we mentioned, 16 is that magic number for the Brewers. Combination of wins and losses, wins for the Brewers, losses for the Cubs, or just straight up win 16 more games here for the Crew. So, but again, Brandon Woodruff. I want to go back to him here for a second. His comeback, and if we rewind it, when he missed 4 months of this season with that strained muscle in his throwing shoulder, and he's coming back. And I remember we had this conversation when he first came back. It's like, okay, you're just kind of like holding your breath that he doesn't re-aggravate it, that he doesn't, have a setback. How is he going to look? Obviously he's probably going to be on maybe a little bit of a pitch count coming up here, as he eases his way back in. But he came back, and he came back August 6th with that first game against the Pirates. And it was kind of like a trade there, right? Acquiring this. But you got a starting pitcher right now at the level of Brandon Woodruff, who doesn't have all those innings on his arm, on his shoulder, like a lot of these other starters. You got a healthy and kind of a refreshed Brandon Woodruff as you approach this postseason. You got that guy who's doesn't have all that wear and tear on his shoulder like a Burns or a Peralta for this year, or any other starting pitcher has played the majority part of the season, the whole season, like some other teams. I think that's crucial, and I think that's what's really kind of separating Brandon Woodruff right now, and where he's playing at such a high level is because the guy's a little bit refreshed, doesn't have all that wear and tear on here. I mean, you look at his last 2 games, 9 innings and 7 innings pitched. He's racking up these innings. His max last night, Craig Counsell, when he went back out there for the last inning, said, your cap's 105, 105 pitches. Ended up getting 106 total. I think Brandon Woodruff right now, might be a big time key. And it's only 1 game, when you get to the postseason, it might just be 1 game in there. But this starting staff, if they can play like they are, when they get to that postseason, anything is possible, to quote Kevin Garnett. Need a little bit more from the offense. Obviously, if you go out and put up the runs like you did last night, then you don't have to worry about that. But it's such a huge wild card in this thing. And I don't know if Josh Donaldson's going to be the answer. I mean, you look at his numbers, they're not fantastic. And I know the narrative out there is like, well, he's hitting the ball hard. And maybe a lot of it's just bad luck and such if you look at the advanced statistics and all that sort of stuff. I just want the guy to provide a little bit of pop in the middle of that lineup. A little bit of power here. William Contreras, I think, overall, if you were to pick an MVP, offensive MVP for this ball club, I think it's probably Contreras, just because he's been your most consistent hitter at the plate. He collected a couple more hits last night. He's up to 283 batting average this year, 813 OPS. Guy producing the numbers that he's doing from the catching position. It's pretty fantastic there. But other than that, yeah, Yelich kind of having a bounce back year, but he's struggling as of late. Now he's missing some time because of his back. Mark Canha last night collecting a couple hits and hitting that leadoff home run. You look at the numbers that Mark Canha has put up in his last 30 games. His last 106 at-bats. Mark Canha's hitting 321. 321 with 4 home runs. 500 slugging percentage. I mean, his average so far this year is 264 when you factor in everything. But the guy, might have started off a little bit slow when he first came on to the Brewers, but he's picked it up as of late. Ever since joining the Brewers, he has hit 303 with an OPS of an 849. And he's collected 4 home runs. He had 6 in 89 games with the Mets. He's already got 4 right now in 35 with the Brewers. And he's not known to be a home run hitter. He's not known to be, a big pop guy there. But you got to say right now, it might have started off a little bit slow when he first got with the Crew. But that trade, it's worked out. It's worked out so far for the Crew. Santana, a guy, again, the other player who was acquired before the trade deadline. If you're looking at his season so far for the Brewers, yeah, you look at some of the numbers, he's kind of gone in streaks so far this year, but he's 7 home runs in 36 games compared to 12 home runs in 94 games with Pittsburgh. His average is a little bit down compared to Pittsburgh. Same with his OPS and slugging, but I think they brought him on more for the home run power, right? To bring that power to that lineup. So looking at tonight's game, Freddie, fastball Freddie, strikeout Freddie is going to get the start for the Crew. Can he continue to play at the high level that he's been playing at? Reigning National League Pitcher of the Month for the Crew, looking for his 12th win of the season. Currently at 11-8 with a 3.89 ERA. Freddie Peralta has had a nice kind of last few months here after starting off the season pretty slow. I mean, he was putting up numbers like, oh, what's going on with Freddie Peralta right now? Like little slow here, but he has bounced back really nicely this year. You look at that month of May where he went 2-2 and had a 5.61 ERA. Then he kind of slowly started to turn it down. June, 4.73. July, 3.63. And then August, on fire, 5-0, 2.10 ERA. That's why he was named National League Pitcher of the Month. And so far in September, in a couple of starts here, it's been some no decisions there. But, 6 innings against the Phillies, back on the first, 1 earned run. And he's coming off his latest start against the Pirates where, he did give up 4 earned runs, which was the most since he gave up 3 earned runs on August 1st against Washington. So maybe a little bit of a bounce back performance from Freddie Peralta. And you're looking at some of the lineups here, and you got a little bit of experience, mostly from the Marlins side going up against Peralta, which makes sense. Bell's, though, is 13 at-bats and .077, excuse me. Stallings is 8 at-bats, 375, and everybody else has got like a game's worth. So I expect Freddie Peralta to go out there and just kind of continue to pitch at the level he's been pitching. The biggest thing every single game, though, that, in these final 19 regular season games is going to be what version of the offense will the Brewers get? Is it going to be the Dr. Jekyll one, or is it going to be, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Yeah, which version? Is it going to be Jekyll or Hyde? It's going to be the question every single night heading into these games for the Brewers. Final 19 and into the postseason. Which version of the offense is going to show up? All right, let's take a quick break here. Switch it up here. We'll chat a little football. Still looking for who do you think or what do you think is the biggest winner and biggest loser from week 1 of the NFL season? Now that it is officially in the books, give me one. I want to see where a majority goes with our awesome listeners out there. All right, we'll take that first break and be back in just a couple minutes to finish up the first hour on this Tuesday morning. Wake up and smell the magic that is cabin coffee in Altoona. From the moment that you step in, you are embraced by the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the warmth of community. Their skilled baristas handcraft each cup with love, ensuring every sip is an experience worth savoring. Even if you're not a coffee person, though, they have something for everyone. Embrace the comfort of a cabin getaway right at your favorite coffee shop. Visit Cabin Coffee today at 2922 Meadowlark Lane in elevate your coffee experience at Cabin Coffee. Because you know what? Life is too short for just ordinary brews. All right, so we got about 15 minutes to stop. A reminder, we're gonna catch up with do a little Tuesday edition of Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Obviously, with probably the big story in the sports world right now. Aaron Charles Rodgers looks like he potentially will be done for the season, just a few snaps into his first season with the New York Jets. Sounds like it's an Achilles injury. Just seeing Albert Breer right now, tweeting just a few seconds ago. Aaron Rodgers will have an MRI this morning with the team's decision makers set to meet to discuss post-Roger plans for the position at some point today. For now, Zach Wilson is the guy. That's the thing. I mean, there ain't a whole lot of um, options out there. I mean, if Tom Brady really wanted, and I know this was kind of a thing that was trending on the good old Twitter yesterday or last night. If Tom Brady really wants to pull off a joke, I mean, a really, like after getting honored with the Patriots and that, and now all of a sudden going to play for the Jets, and obviously Bill Belichick really hates the Jets and such, but I think that would be I would be really, 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 really shocked if Brady did anything like that at this point. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of other options out there. I mean, Matt Ryan's available. He officially didn't retire, even though he's in the booth right now. I mean, backup quarterback options out there. I know like Gardner Minshew is being mentioned, Jameis Winston with the Saints, but in reality, are those better than Zach Wilson right now? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so at this point. And if they are, it's not that much better. So, but man, again, and I know I kind of said it at the open. I know there were some Packers fans that were having a little fun with the injury to Rodgers last night and that, but I don't I don't care if it's on a rival team. I don't care, player wise. I don't like seeing players get hurt, and especially when it's going to be, potentially a season long thing. I don't want to see that. You don't want to see it in any sport, anything like that. But this does affect the Packers, obviously, as we all know. Trade pick compensation for the Packers to get the Jets number one overall pick. Rodgers had to play 65% of the snaps this year. If he doesn't, which now looks like it's going to be the case, Packers get the second round pick. Now, this it depends. I mean, and draft picks, I mean, they're crapshoots. We all know that, right? We all know that. Best case scenario for the Packers if they wanted a high draft pick is that Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps, but the Jets stink, right? Jets don't make the playoffs. They don't win a bunch of games, but he plays 65% of the snaps. Then you get a higher first round pick. Worst case scenario, though, that could happen for the Packers in this is Zach Wilson or whoever's going to play quarterback for them goes out there, balls out, wins a bunch of games, plays incredibly well. Jets get to the postseason, make a deep postseason run with Zach Wilson as their starter or whoever it's going to be. Anybody that's not named Aaron Rodgers. That would be like the worst case scenario for the Packers because that would mean they get a late second round pick. Ain't going to be an early second round pick. It's going to be a late second round pick towards the back end there. That would be like the worst case scenario. We got 16 more games to go. Jets picked up the win last night in overtime thanks to a walk-off punt return. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out here, but now the Jets still have a very, very, very good defense. Very good defense. And this is kind of an intriguing match. I mean, it was going to be intriguing to begin with, but now, you look at how the Cowboys defense performed against the Giants, and then, this Jets defense. We'll see how it all plays out, but maybe now a little bit more kind of paying attention to that scoreboard watching when it comes to the Jets at this point in time, if you're into the draft pick sort of thing now. But kind of wonder, you wonder like what was going through the minds of like Goody or Mark Murphy. I know there was kind of a fun thing. I don't know if I would say fun thing, but yeah, it was kind of like a fun little viral thing. Mark Murphy a few weeks ago, did an interview, and I think he was asked something about Rodgers and the Jets and the trade and that, and he's kind of he's like 65%, 65%. That's what they wanted so they could get the first round pick. Kind of wonder what was like the first thing that was going through the decision makers' minds when they saw Rodgers getting carted off and now hearing reports that he could be done for the year. Because it sounded like the biggest holdup in the trade, from this offseason, the biggest holdup between Rodgers and the Jets, or the Packers and the Jets with the trade for Rodgers, was, next year's pick. And they finally settled on that 65%. Sounds like the Packers wanted the first round pick regardless in 2024. Jets weren't willing to do that because they didn't want to, one and done sort of thing. So they settled on the 65% thing. And, well, right now it sure looks like it's going to be a second round pick there for the Pack. So we'll find out more details later on today, but I think the writing's on the wall at this point in time. Now you just kind of wonder, with Rodgers' age, at the age of 40, what's the future going to be like for him? And something I want to ask Dr. Crow, because Rodgers has had calf issues for a while now. It goes back to 2014, like 9 years ago. Remember that 14 season, the postseason run there? He was limited with that calf injury, and he's dealt with a calf issue again this year. Something I want to ask Dr. Crow coming up here in a little bit is, how much did those calf injuries, could that have affected, the stability, if that's the right word to use, of that Achilles injury? I don't know, but you kind of wonder now the recovery process of a man who's going to be 40 years old at that quarterback position with his Achilles. What potentially could the outcome look like? I can't imagine Rodgers ending his career on that, but at the same time, I guess it wouldn't totally surprise me. He is a different human, different mindset than a lot of people. Not the ideal way to potentially go out. Maybe a lot will depend on, the play of Zach Wilson. I don't know, but a lot of ball game left to be played. Looking at the Pro Football Focus grades from this Packers game, if you're a big believer in the Pro Football Focus, or you kind of look at that as another, tool in the toolbox, if you will. Zach Tom was the highest graded Packers player on the offense at an 84.8. David Bakhtiari was the third highest graded player. So you got a couple of offensive line here, and I want to get to the offensive line here in a second. Romeo Doubs was the second highest graded. Aaron Jones, fourth. Samori Toure was the fifth highest graded. But the highest graded player overall for the Packers was on the defensive side, and that was Quay Walker at 92.1, Rashawn Gary, 83.4, Devontae Wyatt, 82.5, Rasul Douglas, 75.7, Darnell Savage at 72.3. This Packers team, or excuse me, this Packers offensive line, and shout out to I believe it was Jake yesterday too, who mentioned them right away as, kind of the group that performed really well, or really stood out to him. And I've got a Green and Gold Chalk Talk video coming out here in a little bit talking about the offensive line. But that offensive line is going to be so critical, crucial, key for Jordan Love this year to have a solid season, to have a group like that. going back, not to go back to the Jets here thing again, but what was the talk surrounding the Jets in the offseason? And you look at, last night had some pressure on Rodgers and Wilson right away. Offensive line, right? Offensive line getting after him. Packers have an established offensive line. It's something that they have built and continue to build over the years. This group, David Bakhtiari, didn't allow a pressure, a hurry, a hit, or a sack. Nothing. Zero. For everybody who wanted Bakhtiari gone or traded, the guy is still getting it done without practice. Zach Tom, same stat line. Josh Myers, same stat line. Didn't allow pressure, a hurry, a hit, or a sack in all their pass blocking snaps on Sunday. John Runyon Jr. was charged with one hit and pressure. Elton Jenkins charged with a hurry and a pressure. That's it. That is it. That offensive line dominated the line of scrimmage on Sunday. And yes, it's against the Bears. Maybe, is it because maybe the Bears aren't that great at the defensive line at generating pressure? Possibly. How would the offensive line pair up with a team like the Jets or Bills or whatever? Maybe a little bit more pressures here and there, maybe a little bit more hits. But to have an offensive line, a veteran offensive line, Zach Tom's a second-year guy, but to have the talent on that offensive line like the Packers have is going to pay huge dividends for the development of Jordan Love, for Jordan Love this season. The fact that he won't have to worry about, constant pressure on him, where he won't have to have ghosts chasing him, or where he gets, happy feet in the pocket. It's not to say he's going to be clean every single game. It's likely not going to happen. Odds are, right? But to have that offensive line play that he has in front of him, it's going to pay dividends. And that's why, when you got some depth at offensive line, it's okay to have depth at offensive line. You don't necessarily have to trade guys away, because what happens if there's an injury? You don't want a huge drop-off in production from the offensive line. Thing is with football, of all the changes that has gone on, aerial attacks, running games, bigger guys at tight end and safety and corner, it's still one in the trenches, man. Offensive line and defensive line, it's still up front. It's always about having the depth up there. That's where it's won. And I think that's going to pay a big key for the Packers this year, is because of that offensive line play. I mean, you look at those numbers. Yeah, David Bakhtiari, you don't got to practice, man. You don't got to practice if you're going to continue to put up numbers like that. Now, it'll be interesting to see how teams counteract that. Will they try to bring more pressure against Jordan Love? Will they try to bring extra blitzers to get him rattled, to try to get him to maybe throw a pick and throw it a little too quick? It'll be interesting to see how teams kind of play against Love going forward in this season after what they saw in that first week there. All right, a couple minutes before we get to Dr. Crow coming up here. We'll finish up the first hour with Morgs. Good morning.
Hey, I hear you chatting. You're going to ask Dr. Crow if Rodgers' calf injuries led to some of his Achilles and ankle injuries that he had here.
Mhm.
Now, did you sustain any injuries during your college or high school?
I tore my quad in college basketball, yeah.
So what was that like?
The best way I described it was like a hot golf ball in your thigh.
Ugh.
That's what it felt like.
I've never heard of a quad tear.
Yeah.
I've heard of people blowing up their biceps or pecs or tearing there, and that's kind of a hard heal.
Tore the quad, it felt like just a hot size golf ball was in there.
Do you remember having any teammates that went down hard that had any big injuries back in the day that still make you cringe?
Not in sports, but I remember in gym class one time, her name was Stacy, and we had I think it was the National Guard or Marines or something like that.
Okay.
So they set up this inflatable obstacle course.
Oh no.
And so it was over the wall.
Stacy, not so much an athlete?
No, she is. She was
okay.
good, but it was over the wall. But either something, the next inflatable wasn't pushed up tight against it. So when she got over the wall, fell between the two, and her elbow busted.
You're kidding me.
So she was stuck in there. She couldn't, get out
Oh,
sort of thing.
no.
Yeah.
And see, that sticks in your mind. That
Mhm.
that'll the kid after Stacy's the one that's really not gonna wanna go up the wall now,
Right.
like, "Whoa."
Exactly.
Talk about a little scared.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a person that can watch game tape like that where people get injured on the and then they just do replay after replay.
Mhm.
Can you? I have to turn away. I can't, especially if it involves a leg
I
bend
can
in the
do
wrong
it,
way.
but there's a max. Like, the worst one I think I saw was on TV, and I saw the still photo of it, and it still gives me the heebie-jeebies,
Mhm.
was I think his name was Kevin Ware. He was a basketball player for Louisville.
Okay.
It was against, Duke. He shot, and he landed, but his leg broke, and the
Oh,
bone came through the skin,
you're kidding
so you could
me.
see the bone, and that's like, somebody took a photo of it.
Now, are you one of those can't look away guys even though you don't wanna watch,
I
or
do have to look at it.
you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I
It'll
can't.
bug me, but I
Mm-mm.
have to look at it. Yeah.
That's probably one of the worst ones that you've seen?
Yeah, especially when you see the still photo and you see the bone, like the bone sticking up out of the skin.
Oh,
It's
anybody that's Googling it right now, no, you're sick. You're sick. I can't
yeah,
stand it. I'm
that's one of the
it's
worst
even when they
ones.
replay in real time on TV, obviously, because if you see someone go down, like Rogers did or
Mhm,
whatever, you look at it and they replay it. There's just I hit my limit fast with that kind of stuff. It
mhm.
makes me cringe.
Yep. Yeah.
So you got to be feeling good coming out of the game, of course. So that makes your job a little more fun right now. We'll
Mhm.
take that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk school spirit, homecoming week. Now, Siggy's going through homecoming week.
It's already homecoming week.
They have an
Jeez
early homecoming in
Louise.
Boyceville this year, but
Yeah.
were you a homecoming kid? Were you the one that got into all that with school spirit and stuff?
No.
What are you shaking your head for?
No.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say let's go through virtual homecoming here. Yesterday they did what was it? No Mirror Monday. So basically the kids got to wear their pajamas and stuff, which was fine. Today's Jersey Day. If it was homecoming right now in our building and you had a jersey up for homecoming theme week, what would you put on?
Can it be any jersey?
Any jersey?
I'll throw my Don Hudson one on.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's the one you're gonna take in today for
Yep.
homecoming? All right.
Yep.
Well then, let's get some team spirit going on in here.
Alright.
Let's go
Let's make our own
Casper.
jerseys. How about that?
Oh, there we go.
Do it that way.
We're all 105.1.
Yeah.
That's the team number.
as they did last year. Beef shipments to Taiwan, Mexico, Canada, Hong Kong, Africa, Peru, and Honduras did grow in July. And the honeybee colonies for Wisconsin operations with 5 or more colonies total 27,000 on January 1st this year. That's according to the USDA. Colony numbers were down 31% compared to January of 2022, but up 4% compared to fourth quarter of 2022 counts. Honeybee colonies lost for operations through diseases, pests, pesticide, or destruction, 3,300 or 11% during the first quarter of this year. That's up 6% from the same time last year and up 4% from losses during the fourth quarter last year. That's a look at some farm news this morning. Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. I'm Bob Bosold.
Get ready and save half with half-off deals. It's a great way for you to get goods and services that you love, and you don't have to pay full price. Start saving this Friday, September 15th, with the VFW Post 305 and egg rolls and more VFW in Altoona. Be ready with your credit or debit card and get ready to save with this week's half-off deals. For more details and to find out about all the savings, just go to aroundthe715.com.
Crank it up. Hey! Are you ready to take it up? Yeah! He's on his way. He's our man. The myth, the legend. That's Dan. And now, the Dan Kasper Show.
All right, here we go. Second hour kicking off on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. Coming up next hour, we'll get to some college football talk with RJ Cardinal from the Zone in Madison, recapping that Badgers loss and looking ahead to their game against Georgia Southern before the Badgers begin their Big Ten play next Friday. But a little bit of a change on this Tuesday. We got an early version of Inside the Training Room with Mr. Dr. Crow here this morning. Let's play the intro here, right?
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow.
You better call me a doctor.
On the Dan Kasper Show.
Somebody give me a doctor.
All right, so last night, obviously, we know what happened during the Jets and Bills game. Aaron Rodgers' debut, only lasting a few short plays there, and then helped off the field, and then later carted off the field. So to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory here, we got Dr. Crow joining us now. I was texting Dr. Crow right away, asking for his thoughts and such, and one of the final ones that you kind of thought could be the issue, sounds like it is the issue. Head coach Robert Saleh after the game saying it's an Achilles issue that Rodgers is dealing with. He's going to go under an MRI this morning, but Robert Saleh saying it doesn't look good right now. So kind of, when you first saw that, is it kind of a weird way or goofy way to tear an Achilles, Austin?
Yeah, it is a little bit atypical. Generally, it's when people are doing like an explosive eccentric movement. So like a lot of times sprinting down a court or jumping. So usually we'll have an athlete that's, playing basketball, playing volleyball, and they jump and it's that, or landing. So it can be either a concentric or eccentric loading, and they basically will feel this big pop. His obviously was a contact injury, so he was being loaded. Now, of course, I'm sure a lot of us have watched the slow motion replay on that video, and he's certainly loading that leg, not only himself, but the defender that's tackling him. And I do think that there's a couple early versions I watched, and and it wasn't super clear. I was like, it didn't look like it was that bad of an injury, but there was one final view, and again, I'm sure it's one we've all seen coming from behind, and it does look like you can see a recoil go up that. Now, it wasn't quite as dramatic as, let's say, Kevin Durant's or some of the ones we've seen in the NBA, because that's like super slow mo, and they're usually not wearing pads or anything, so you can really clearly see that. But I do believe you can see the Achilles rupture, and that basically at that point, once the Achilles rupture, the gastroc and calf is flexing against nothing, so it recoils back up. And so I think you can see that in that image, unfortunately. So my assumption is that it's going to show a complete rupture of the Achilles. And truthfully, everyone in the organization already knows it. So when we order MRIs, in most circumstances, it's just confirmatory. You can, because you can feel it, as opposed to like an ACL or something where you kind of tell some laxity. This, you can actually palpate the Achilles tendon, and there's a hole in it. So if that's what it is, they already know it. It's just a confirmatory thing.
Yeah. So one question I think some people are having out there too is like, so Sunday, J.K. Dobbins, the running back for the Ravens, he tore his Achilles, and the Ravens pretty much announced it right away. There's some wondering why, if they know, why aren't they announcing it? Why is he undergoing an MRI right now? Is it just simply maybe some facilities have that technology, have an MRI machine, or could it be a different way of tearing it, if that makes sense?
I mean, they might be worried about a more proximal injury where you rip it at the more of the junction of proximally with the muscle and the tendon. That would be non-operative, but I don't think that's the way it looked in the image. So it could be just the way the team handles it. I mean, again, like I said, I would tell you that the team doctor who examined him on the sidelines, you can basically tell that in about 1 second. You palpate it, there's literally a gap in the tendon. So if it's there, they already know it. So maybe they're just playing the cards tight to their vest. I'm not sure. Or it is possible that it's, going to be something where it's an injury we're not expecting, but I would be surprised by that. So my suspicion is they know it, and they're just not announcing it for whatever reason. They'll announce it today once he's had his MRI, which again, I'm fully expecting to find that.
So, one question I wanted to ask you, we've talked about it before. Aaron's had calf issues for a while now. You go back to 2014, he had a calf issue earlier this year, in camp and training camp. Is it possible, with all of the calf issues that he has had over the years, does that increase the potential of an injury like this, or is it not really related?
We tend not to see a link there. I mean, you think it would be, and it does harken back to Durant, because Kevin Durant, if you remember, he had some calf issues prior to him rupturing his Achilles tendon. But despite them being part of the same unit, if you will, so the muscle up top is the calf or the gastroc, and down below is the Achilles tendon, we tend not to see a link there. So it's more of a tendon problem or a muscle problem. Now, you could certainly argue that people who had calf problems maybe have favored it, and that's related to some changes to the tendon potentially, but there's not a real strong correlation where it's like, this guy's had a calf problem, now he's really at high risk for an Achilles. We don't see that link really.
Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning on a special Tuesday appearance. So Aaron's going to be age 40, coming up here in a couple months now. I mean, this is an injury that'll keep him out for the entire season. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but does age kind of factor in with the recovery process for somebody at his level, or does the position of quarterback actually help him out here a little bit too?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. No question, it's a big injury and will require surgical repair. I think his ability to bounce back from that, I think, is going to be high if he wants to. The real question is at his age, it's not so much will his body heal it. It will. The real question is does he want to go through all the rehab to get back to playing at the NFL level, or is he like, what, I've won Super Bowls, I won MVPs, maybe it's time to hang it up. And I think that's the more likely question people ask. And I don't, of course, none of us know the answer yet. And I think that'll be something he'll have to look at and say, is it worth going through that? Again, do I expect him to heal? Yes. Do I expect him to get back to a relative high level? Yes. Especially at a quarterback position, is that something that's favorable? All those things are yes. I think you just have to ask yourself, that a person, his career with what he's accomplished, is it something he's going to want to do?
When he stood up last night too, because after he got sacked and he stood up and he kind of looked at the sideline and then he went back down. Is that something as simple as like, maybe the adrenaline was kind of kicking in at that point and he didn't feel it, or did he feel something and then the pain was a little bit delayed or anything like that? Is that kind of a normal reaction how he was last night?
I mean, you can see in a couple different injuries. If this is versus an Achilles, those actually amazingly are not incredibly painful when they happen. Most people say they feel a pop and they'll have like a little bit of pain or maybe some cramping, and then it's not too bad. So I'm sure the adrenaline of football, covered that up. My assumption is when he stood up and he tried to take a first step and he's like, whoa, the muscle back there's not attached. I mean, so you'll immediately feel that in your leg. It'd feel like a dead leg. And so that's when he went right back down. Now, you occasionally see people who break their ankle or like really more horrific injuries that will actually get up and try to walk on those as well. Same thing. There's the immediate adrenaline rush that covers it up. Those, of course, the person steps on it and then the pain comes. So an Achilles wouldn't necessarily be painful. It'd be more something is wrong in my leg. It just doesn't feel like I can walk on it. And that's why he went back down.
So to kind of wrap it up here, Austin, if when he has a surgery, what's like a typical recovery time for somebody who's recovering from an Achilles tear surgery?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally we see kind of in the 6 to 9 month window. I do know that a couple of the last NBA players that had it was almost a year. And so that's a little slower than what we normally do. I mean, most of my athletes I take care of, I let them resume activities around that 6 month mark, hoping they're back around that 9 month mark window to go full go. So if he wants to, he could be ready for next season. And so if he has it, he's gonna have his surgery soon. They'll get it fixed. You don't sit on those because the tendon will retract up with the muscle and make it harder to repair. So he'll have surgery soon if that's what it is. And then again, I think the $1 million question is going to be, what's his long-term plan? Is he hanging him up, or is he saying, all right, we're going to be back for another round? And it was it's certainly not funny, but it's almost comical how short that lasted. I mean, just just a couple plays, boom, all of a sudden it's over. That was, I mean, very anticlimactic after everything, the hype up of the Jets season and stuff. So I mean, that's the downside of sports, is these injuries that they have. But the good news is they should be able to fix it. And again, it'll be his decision whether he wants to go ahead and try and make a comeback.
Yeah, and I know it sparked the conversation again. David Bakhtiari was very vocal about it on Twitter. I know you and I have talked about it on here a couple times. The whole debate about turf, was turf a factor into this? And I know the Jets and Giants, I guess, just replaced that turf. It's a brand new one, but got a feeling that's probably going to spark the conversation or the debate again at this point.
It could. I mean, I think there's certain injuries that you look at and say, I could see that playing a role. I mean, if you watch that, his foot, whether that was in grass or artificial grass, I don't think that would make a big difference. But it's where like the foot gets stuck, like a Liz Frank injury, where the foot literally gets stuck. And like normally grass would give out, but the foot is stuck in the turf. Or like a turf toe injury, again, those ones where it's again kind of stuck in there. I think this one was just, but you're right, I probably will. I don't know if it's rightfully so in this case, but that debate I think will rage on for a while.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Austin, appreciate you hopping on here on a Tuesday morning, and appreciate you letting me bug you last night with some texting, going back and forth, and talking about that and sharing your knowledge with the rest of us this morning, bud.
Well, I guess we'll see if I'm right, but I expect it to be the case anytime.
Yeah, definitely. Austin, have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch up again soon. Okay, bud?
Absolutely. Take care.
You got it. He's Dr. Crow inside the training room. Dr. Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Big thanks for him for hopping on this Tuesday morning and kind of breaking it down. Again, this does factor in, or I should say affect the Packers here a little bit. We all know the first round pick here, 65% of the snaps, right? He had to play 65% of the snaps for the Packers to get that first round pick, and it sure looks like that's not going to be the case anymore, and will be a second round pick here unless something completely different pops up today, but I kind of doubt it right now. So all right, let's do some sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Ansay Associates. 1979, Carl Yastrzemski of the Boston Red Sox became the first American League player to get 3,000 career hits and 400 career home runs. 1984, Michael Jordan signed a 7-year contract to play basketball with the Chicago Bulls. 1984, same day, same year, Dwight Gooden of the New York Mets set a rookie strikeout record with his 251st strikeout of the season. Let's go with 2002. A judge announced that a jury would have to decide who would get the ball that Barry Bonds hit for his record 73rd home run. The ownership of the ball, with an estimated value of $1 million, was being disputed between two men that had been in the bleachers. I think that's about it. Yep, those are just some of your sports nuggets of the day for this Tuesday morning, September 12th. We're still looking for some more kind of a question of the day. We're going to turn it into a podcast segments later on today for the Man Cave podcast. Week one, I'm gonna maybe do it two different ways. Maybe do a couple different segments, but I need your help. Okay, I want to get some reaction, or I want to get some. I want to get some of your thoughts, some of your picks here. Week one, and narrow it down to just one, like your top one. I know it's going to be hard, but the biggest winner from week one, the biggest loser from week one, could be player wise, could be team wise, coach, whatever. And what's the biggest overreaction? Like have a little fun with this one. You can have a little fun. It's not necessarily saying you're calling out anybody for an overreaction, but if you had your own overreaction from week one, what would it be? Have some fun with this one, okay? Let's have a little fun. So I'm expanding it here a little bit, making it kind of a question of the day, but it's mostly going to be for the podcast later on that'll drop later on this morning. Your biggest loser from week one, your biggest winner from week one, and your overreaction from week one. What do you got? All right. Let's take a quick break, and we'll talk some more green and gold after this. But you can hit us up with those answers at our Shoe Doctors bullpen line with a quick text, 715-830-1912, 715-830-1912, or hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER, also Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. And you can comment on the video stream too if you're watching up there. Comment on the video stream there too. So I'll collect those, and I'm kind of curious to see if we get a majority one way or the other. Maybe for Packers fans, it is the Packers. I don't know. All right, we'll take a quick break, and we'll talk some more green and gold coming up in just a few minutes. When it comes to your health and well-being, trust the experts at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Their dedicated team of orthopedic specialists are there to help you regain your mobility, conquer pain, and get back to doing what you love. They offer personalized care that's as unique as you are. So don't let pain hold you back. Rediscover your strength with Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Just visit cvosm.com to get started. Your journey to a pain-free life begins at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. And congrats to our good friends from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. New clinic opening up in Rice Lake. I believe they just opened up yesterday, taking patients yesterday. So also, again, big thanks to Dr. Crow for hopping on just a little bit ago for a special Tuesday edition of Inside the Training Room. If you missed that conversation, we'll put it up in podcast form later on this morning. All right, we'll continue to talk some more green and gold this morning. Joe, what was the biggest takeaway from the win yesterday? On Sunday for the Packers, in your opinion?
The offensive line and defensive line. Both lines dominated. And when you look at the job that Luke Butkus did, and it's fitting that Luke Butkus, obviously, he's got bear in his blood. He really did a nice job of coaching that offensive lineup. And conversely, Jerry Montgomery, the defensive line coach for the Green Bay Packers, I thought did a tremendous job. One of the stats that jumped out to me, and again, the obvious Jordan Love play, et cetera, Aaron Jones, but the Packers ran over 20 stunts in that game from a pass rush standpoint. Their high last year was 8. And so I think you're really seeing the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball adjusting to the players that they've got. Now, arguably, there's more talent on that defensive line. Devontae Wyatt, I think, huge upgrade over Dean Lowry, and then, of course, TJ Slayton, allowing Kenny Clark to move outside. And so you've got an upgraded talent there. But the fact that it seems that this coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball is adapting and adjusting, I think, is a huge thing. And Jair Alexander, he did a tremendous job on DJ Moore, 2 catches, 25 yards, shadowing their best receivers. So I think it's the adjustments that this coaching staff made. And again, when I talk about the offensive line, Zach Tom doesn't look like the prototypical tackle, but boy, his technique is so sound and so good that he really, I could see being a member of this offensive line for years to come.
Biggest thing that stood out to you in terms of Jordan Love's play on Sunday?
He kept even keel. The negatives are, that completion percentage. And that's one of the things that we've talked about now for a few years is he's got to be able to hit some of those passes that NFL quarterbacks hit. So on the negative side, I think it's still that inability to be consistent from a completion percentage standpoint. A couple of throws, one to Jaden Reed, stood out that it needed to be thrown more to the outside to complete that and get the first down. And, of course, the one he missed to Musgrave. Now, the flip side, I thought his poise, I thought his even keelness, I thought his management in the huddle, I thought all of those things, huge positives. And he stayed within himself. The other thing that I thought was interesting, Captain, and obviously this is early on in Jordan Love's career, but when he would scramble with his eyes still downfield and looking to make a play through the air. The other thing is he was looking to complete runs. Now, if Jordan Love plays 15 years, I wouldn't recommend him doing that when he's 35, 36, 37 years old. But I think he can make a statement by doing those types of things. So again, I think you take the good and the bad with Jordan Love, more good than bad. But it was very promising, needless to say.
Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning, recapping the Packers win over the Bears, and then we'll be looking ahead to the game against the Atlanta Falcons. If there was one disappointing thing from the game on Sunday, who or what was that for you?
A.J. Dillon. I don't see him running with the same power and strength and toughness that he ran with before. And there's absolutely no wiggle there with him as well. And so I get it. He's a big back, quadzilla. I get all those things. But right now, the drop-off between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon is huge.
Joe, looking ahead to this game against Atlanta, obviously they've got some young, talented players there. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. I know Drake London didn't have a great game week one, didn't have a lot of targets. I don't think any targets or any catches in week one. But how does this defense slow down those playmakers for the Atlanta Falcons?
I think it starts at the quarterback position. I think if Joe Barry can dial up some things, Desmond Ridder is still a very young quarterback. And so I think you need to confuse him to remove some of those weapons from the game. And you need to speed the game up for him. So his thought process back there, he doesn't sit back there and pick you apart and allow him to dictate the game. So I think it's more of a mental preparation than a physical in-game, how do we stop these guys? So I think the biggest thing is Joe Barry and that defensive side of the ball needs to dial up some things to confuse him, give him some different looks, put him behind the sticks. So, you're looking at 2nd and 8 and 9 and 3rd and 7 plus. So I think if you get Atlanta playing behind the sticks a little bit, I think then you have an opportunity to make some big plays. And I think there's going to be some turnovers in this game. I think, I think like Justin Fields, if Green Bay can stay in front and play with a lead, I look at Desmond Ridder very similarly to Justin Fields, where I think he makes a mistake with the game on the line. So there's no question Robinson and Pitts are wonderfully gifted athletic players. But I think this game is going to be won more from a scheme standpoint than necessarily anything that Green Bay can do to stop those guys. I mean, it was impressive what you saw there. And I thought, the job that they did on Sunday, very impressive. This is not going to be a cakewalk for the Green Bay Packers. And I think you're looking at an Atlanta Falcon team that is much better this year.
You are the opposing defensive coordinator. You're the defensive coordinator for the Falcons, and you've got 1 week's film on Jordan Love. You're watching that film on Jordan Love. How are you preparing to maybe attack him, slow him down, or rattle him here a little bit?
Well, I think it's the flip side that we just talked about with Ridder. I don't think Chicago did a very good job of getting complex and making things look different and disguising coverages. So I think you go into this, and I think you make him work mentally in this game. You make him work because, Jordan Love, in my opinion, the offensive line did a tremendous job pass blocking. Jordan Love had all day to throw. You didn't see a lot where he just dropped back and knew immediately where he was going with the ball. So I think you need to mix up coverages. You need to disguise blitzes. And so if I'm the DC of Atlanta, I am doing everything I can to confuse him. I just don't think he saw a lot of complexity in that Bear defense on Sunday. And I think that mental part of the game right now for him is still where it's not slowing down to the point where things are automatic. So I'm going to confuse him. I'm going to bring heat. I'm going to bring the blitz. Of course, we don't know if Christian Watson is going to play this week again. He's got the hamstring injury, and that's those soft tissue injuries. You got to be careful with. And obviously, last year he had the same situation. So, if you've got a Christian Watson, you can make teams pay from a blitz standpoint. But there's really not a lot of people on this team to take the top off. Now, that being said, I thought Jordan Love did a really nice job of taking what was given to him on Sunday. And so if you do blitz, Jordan Love needs to know where his hot reads are and live to play another play.
So with if Aaron Jones is not available for this game, we don't know yet with that hamstring issue that he's got going on. But if he's not available for this game, how do the Packers? What's the game plan on offense? How do they move the ball? How do they come away with touchdowns instead of field goals, or how do they come away with points in this thing?
It's going to be the nuances of the West Coast offense. It's going to be the quick passing game. Maybe get back to some slants. Maybe get creative with Jaden Reed, and you saw them try to do that a little bit this past week. But I think if Aaron Jones doesn't play, and I do think he's going to play, based on what he said and and kind of the reaction of the team early on, at least. And again, things can change, but based on that, I do think he's going to play. But I think rather than make A.J. Dillon the guy, I think you make Patrick Taylor at least that guy to start, and then still bring A.J. Dillon in to spot him. And so, I don't think right now A.J. Dillon's the answer to necessarily say, you know what, we're going to give him the ball, 18 to 22 times a game and just let him rock. I don't see that. I see Green Bay still having A.J. Dillon as a complimentary back rather than a lead back. So, you stay true to that short passing game of the West Coast offense. You get the slants mixed in there. You get some of those types of things where Jordan Love can play on rhythm and on time. And then I see, again, A.J. Dillon not being that number one back.
All right, Joe, before we get to prediction, what besides Green Bay, what was some of the big things that stood out to you from week one?
Well, look, there's some exciting rookies. It's interesting what happened in Minnesota and that Tampa Bay defense. But obviously, the big story of this weekend is Aaron Rodgers. And first of all, any Packer fan that is happy that happened, and I'm not talking about the 65% playing time. I'm talking about any Packer fan whose butt hurt because of Aaron Rodgers and was happy to see him go down and basically be out for the year, essentially, from what everyone is saying. That's wrong. And so that's the big news that you have to take away from this first week. Yes, there's some exciting rookies. Yes, you look at what Mike McCarthy did as a play caller with Dallas and what that Dallas Cowboy team was able to do. But the big thing to partake and the big thing takeaway is Aaron Rodgers' New York Jet career, whether or not, this might be the end or not, lasted, 4 plays. And I think that's the biggest news. And talking about it last night with some people and you hate to see that no matter the circumstance. And put yourself in New York Jets shoes, the emotional investment of that franchise into Aaron Rodgers. And if this were Green Bay's side of things and they went out and got that guy, think about what the fan base would be. So I think, you saw some good things. You saw some sloppy play this weekend. But the number one story outside of course, Green Bay beating the Bears was Aaron Rodgers' injury. All
right, prediction time with Green Bay traveling to Atlanta. How do you see this one playing out?
It's from last time I saw it, Atlanta started off as a 1-point favorite, and the home team, always gets 3 points. So, it's kind of like the Bear game. And again, I was glad I was wrong on the score on that one. And the heart wants me to go with Green Bay, and even the head at this point. I saw enough from what the Green Bay Packers did, what the coaching staff did to say that this is going to be a W. So I'm picking the Packers in this one, and I'm seeing this being a field goal-ish type of game, 24-20, right around there, 27-24. If Green Bay can play their game like they played against the Bears, because one thing we don't know, how truly bad this Bears team is. And so was Green Bay that good, or were the Bears that bad? Mm-hmm. And so I do see, though, based on what I saw from both teams, I can go head and heart with the Packers this week by about a field goal or 4 points.
All right, he's Joe DeGuano breaking it all down for us this morning. Appreciate the time as always, sir, and we'll catch up with you again soon.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
You got it. There you go. There's Joe DeGuano joining us here this morning. We're going to take a quick break and wrap up the second hour after these few words. Upgrade your flooring game with the help from our good friends, Carpet City Flooring Center here in Eau Claire. Absolutely loving the job that they did for our downstairs, for the man cave over there. The first full football weekend, Hutsy and I spent it down in the man cave. Did the mini football helmet picks in the new man cave on the carpet there. But man, the tile that they put in to make it look like that cabin feel there, the bathroom, the walkway, and the kitchen, and the actual like sitting area with the TV and such with the new carpet, it looks absolutely fantastic. The attention to detail is what I tell a lot of people about it. There's some stuff there was like no trim in there before, and it looks like kind of a little bit of an unfinished area or like a very rushed up finished area when we first moved in and such. And, just the little attention to detail that the fine people at Carpet City Flooring Center did with that space is what really kind of sets it apart. We love it down there. We're spending a lot more time down there because it's new and it's well done. It looks like a livable space now. Not to say it wasn't before, but it looks fantastic. And, they helped us pick the style, the colors that would look great down there, that works best within our budget, that works best within our area. And the thing is, too, with what Carpet City Flooring Center did, if you've got kind of like a problem area, we had a couple of those, and one of them was like the bottom step. It was kind of a tripping hazard. My grandma would always trip on there. But also, too, the tile was coming up, and when I took the tile off, there was like a big hole in there. Like the concrete it wasn't done right. Carpet City Flooring Center took care of both of that. They fixed both of that. They actually built up a platform so it was a little bit more safer at the bottom of the steps there too. So that's the type of service you get with Carpet City Flooring Center. They go above and beyond there for you. They don't just like cut corners or just hurry up and quickly do this and get in and get out. They do it perfectly. They do a job so well done. Go check the video. I know I posted it up a couple weeks ago. See it for yourself, the before, the after parts of it. So many other places, they'll try to cut corners and, not really care about you, the customer. That's not the case with Carpet City Flooring Center. As soon as you go in there, they work with you from start to finish, and they work with you to find out what fits within your budget, which is exactly what they did with us. So big thanks again to Carpet City Flooring Center, the entire team over there, the staff in the store and the install team. Just awesome people to work with over there. So, all right, we got 9 minutes to the top of the hour here. Again, we're going to talk some college football coming up next hour with RJ Cardinal at about 8:20 this morning. We'll recap that awful loss to Washington State, and then we'll kind of preview Georgia Southern coming up here. And we'll talk some more college football too. I know RJ. I'm going to ask him. And I don't know if he's listening right now, but if you are RJ, I'm giving you the heads up already. I know RJ kind of likes to have fun or gets annoyed sometimes about his Texas back. Well, I'm going to ask him his Texas back after their loss or their win, against Alabama this past weekend. So, but we'll talk with RJ in about 25-ish minutes or so. Sam, this is what I'm talking about with some overreactions, having fun with some overreactions. Some are just taking it a little bit too serious. I want some fun overreactions like this one. Jordan Love is a bad man. Went out and showed why he belongs in the league. Packers will be in the NFC Championship this year. That's what I'm talking about. Like fun type of overreactions, all right? We're having fun. We're not taking it too serious. For crying out loud, it's sports, people, right? It's sports. So perfect one from Sam. That one I'll bring that one up on the podcast a little bit later on. But looking for your biggest winners, your biggest losers, and the biggest overreaction, a fun overreaction from week one. We'll put that up on our latest episode of the Man Cave podcast. That'll be up later on here this morning. Brewers back in action tonight again, as they are coming off their 12-0 victory against the Marlins last night. Brandon Woodruff, his first career complete game shutout, was on fire last night. But the Brew Crew, even though they got to 80 wins right now, their 80th win, they're still 3 games up on the Cubbies. Cubbies picked up a win last night against against the Rockies. So Brew Crew will try again tonight, hopefully to gain up a little bit more ground. The magic number for the Brewers to win the division over the Cubs is at 16 right now. Could be 16 wins for the Brewers or a combination of Brewers wins and Cubs losses. Kind of a quick update now that we only have 19 more games left to go in the regular season here for the Brewers. Looking at the rest of Major League Baseball, not a whole lot of changes going on here. You've got, Baltimore still leading their division, Houston, Minnesota leading their divisions, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Texas. Your wild card teams right now, Seattle, losers of 4 in a row on the outside looking in of a wild card spot, half game out. National League, a lot of the same stuff, Atlanta, Dodgers, Milwaukee. Your division leaders, Philadelphia, Cubs, Arizona, Miami, and San Francisco. 1.5 back, Cincinnati, 2.5 back right now from those wild card spots. I'm not a big power rankings type of person. I don't care if it's in football or baseball or basketball, whatever. I'm not the biggest. I mean, we all could come up with our own power rankings and such, but I did kind of a little bit, I have to say, about Major League Baseball. So MLB.com's latest power rankings came out, and the Brewers were in the top 10 there, but they had Seattle above them, and Seattle was struggling there a little bit there too. So, but it's especially in baseball, it's so hard to do power rankings, I think, because you got so many games back to back, and I don't know, it just kind of can be all over the place here. But it's so clearly like Braves on the top, Baltimore there too, Dodgers are up there as well. I mean, if we were to, I think you can almost put these in like tiers right now, tiers, levels of where these teams are at. Like, are the Braves in a level by themselves, or would you put the Braves and Baltimore with them? Maybe the Dodgers in there too. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Braves are just so flipping good right now. I mean, Olsen, if there was like an award for best trade, best move of the season, you probably have to look at maybe like some of the moves that the Braves made and such, because man, their offense right now is just on fire. And I know Matt Olson, he came along with the Braves in 2022 there, but you're looking at some of the numbers that he's putting up this year: 50 home runs, 127 RBIs. He's got to be he's got to be an MVP candidate. It's got to be one of the top MVP candidates out there. But, you look at some of the moves that the Braves made, in the offseason, that trade where William Contreras was a part of, right? That everybody thought, Brewers easily won that one. And rightfully, I mean, look at the numbers he's putting up. But even like Sean Murphy, he's got 20 home runs up there too. He's hitting 267. It's just, man. Braves are on fire right now. I don't want to play that team in the postseason. I don't want to play that team at all. We'll see how it all plays out, though, right? Hopefully the Brewers, if they do end up playing the Braves in the postseason, that pitching is up to par. And Brandon Woodruff, who has been the best ERA so far. I just saw this. Brandon Woodruff since August? Yeah, since the start of August. This is from Kurt Hogg. No pitcher in the National League has a better ERA than Brandon Woodruff since the start of August. Now, I know Freddie won Pitcher of the Month, NL Pitcher of the Month in August, but Woody is clearly on his way right now for maybe Pitcher of the Month in September. Since 2018. Here's another fun nugget for you for Brandon Woodruff. In 129 September and October regular season innings, Brandon Woodruff's ERA is 2.17. When it's crunch time, when it's getting ready for the postseason, for that final push, Brandon Woodruff has been one of your best players, one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. Rises up to the challenge. 2.17 ERA in 129 regular season innings in September and October. Another nugget for Brandon Woodruff here. He has now thrown a little over 21 consecutive scoreless innings. He's allowed 2 walks and 10 hits while striking out 10 in that span. And he's like a month removed, a month since he came back from that serious shoulder injury that left him out for 4 months. Man, he is just on fire right now. And I think it's going to be a huge benefit for the Brew Crew because he's a little bit more fresh. Doesn't have a lot of those innings on his arm like some of these other starters. Not to say that it's going to fall off or anything like that for some of these guys when they get to the postseason and such, but he's a little bit more refreshed than like a Corbin Burns than a Freddie Peralta. But man, has he been really good. Really good. All right. Second hour is going to close up here in just a couple minutes. Again, we'll talk some college football next hour. We'll get to RJ Cardinal coming up at about 8:20. Still looking for your biggest winner, biggest loser from the week 1 of the NFL season. Now that it is officially in the books after last night's game with the Jets beating the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk a little bit more football coming up as well. We'll get more into week 2 previews later on this week and such. But we'll kind of give you some updates on the injuries for the Packers. Matt LaFleur talked a little bit with the media yesterday. Updates on Christian Watson and Aaron Jones, and a little bit with Quay Walker. What could their statuses be for this Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons? 2 in. We got 1 more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates. Final hour on this Tuesday morning, kicking off right now. Hopefully you're all off to a fantastic start this morning. Appreciate you tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in. Coming up in about 15, 20 minutes or so, we will catch up with our good friend, Mr. RJ Cardinal, Zone in Madison. Talk some Badgers, Badger football falling to Washington State, as we all know, a few days ago. Now looking ahead to Georgia Southern. We'll preview that and talk a little college football with RJ coming up here. Packers, no practice today. Matt LaFleur, though, did talk a little bit with the media yesterday. Kind of have some updates on the injury front here for the Packers. Aaron Jones, probably everybody's wondering about 33's availability for this Sunday against the Matt LaFleur said that they're still evaluating Aaron Jones's hamstring, but that it was encouraging seeing him jogging off the field. Also mentioned how the Packers, had the luxury that they didn't have to, force Jones back out there, really need Jones out there because of the score. According to Matt Schneidman, who covers the Packers for The Athletic, I talked to Christian Watson. Watson spoke for a little bit. He said there's a lot better chance that he plays Sunday in Atlanta than entering the game on Sunday, but that he's still taking it day by day. He said that he felt his hamstring kind of bite, or he felt it a little bit in the last practice before preparation for week 1. He kind of landed on it and kind of felt it there a little bit. So that's apparently what happened with his hamstring issue there. Quay Walker, he was seen walking around the locker room, but didn't talk. He is still in concussion protocol right now. So that's kind of where everything is at in terms of some of the injuries for the Packers. Again, we may have a little bit of a better idea tomorrow when the team returns to the practice field. For guys like Watson or Jones, I wouldn't be surprised, though, if they're not out on the field and, maybe kind of waiting, giving them the whole week to prepare and that such. But, at least, like Jaden Reed, it was cramps, so it looked like it was bad on Sunday. But as LaFleur said after the game, too, it was cramps there, and he was actually on the field, recovered the onside kick over there, too. So, but, Atlanta, going into Atlanta now. Packers maybe feeling a little good, a little confident and such. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully they're not, reading the headlines too much right now, right? I'll be honest with you. That was kind of something that crawled across my mind a little bit. Was like, okay, now everybody after 1 week, everybody loves Jordan Love. Everybody loves the defense. Don't get caught up reading your headlines here a little bit. I hope that's not the case, and I hope they're still kind of focused on one game at a time and such. But Kenny Clark, this was from Cassidy Hill. She had asked this question to Kenny Clark about kind of the talk all off season about maybe people sleeping on them, and Kenny Clark kind of revealed that it was kind of a bit on chip on their shoulder this whole offseason about people kind of overlooking them or maybe sleeping on them. He said it's been all year. Everybody heard it. Everybody's been sleeping on us. I don't know. Just like since Aaron's been gone, everybody thinks that we don't have a lot of really good players in this locker room. Yeah, we're young and all that, but it's all about the process and how we practice, how we prepare at the end of the day. A lot of those young guys didn't look too young yesterday, and that's just a credit to them and how they prepared. That's a credit to them and how they worked throughout this week and throughout camp and the preseason. They were able to come out and perform on Sunday. So there you have it. But all right, got some good responses here from the biggest winners and biggest losers from week 1 here. Got quite a few of you biggest winners. Quite a few of you going with the Packers. And I don't know if that's just because that's your team, But if you had to take away, maybe some personal preferences, what would it be? Did have a couple saying Detroit Lions coming away with a win Thursday night. A couple of you saying the Cowboys 40-0 victory over there. Losers, biggest losers, clear majority right now. It's the Jets. Everybody seems like it's everybody. We got a couple other ones out there. One was Bengals. I should say a couple actually picked the Bengals over there. One picked the Vikings over there, losing to the Buccaneers and such. But clear majority, it's the Jets right now with what's going on over there with Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. So haven't seen anything confirmed yet, but it sure looks like his season's going to be done. And it's hard not to think about this, but I was thinking about it last night. What if, playing a little what if here. What if Zach Wilson goes out and just balls out, like plays fantastic football? Okay, goes out there and plays fantastic football and gets the Jets to the playoffs. Jets maybe win a couple games in the playoffs, maybe make a little bit of a run. Do the Jets still go back to Aaron Rodgers next year, or do they go, all right, our youngster maybe finally made that turn, and we're going to go back to him? Thanks, Aaron, but we're going to go younger. We're going to go this. I don't know off the top of my head. Salary cap implications, I'm sure that'll be a hit. There's got to be a hit, but I don't know. Like I was thinking about that last night, thinking way down the line, obviously, way down the future. A lot of ball game to be played, but you're human. You kind of think about stuff like that, and I was thinking about that. I was like, what if? Then we got a whole nother off season of Rodgers talk, of Rodgers speculation. What will the Jets do in that? I don't know. I have no idea. But that was one of the first things that crossed my mind is like, okay, what if Zach Wilson goes out there and plays really well and helps lead his Jets team? Because a lot of people are probably just assuming now Jets aren't going to make the postseason. Got a great defense. They still won the game last night. What if Zach Wilson goes out there and plays really well? I kind of hate to be in Joe Douglas, the general manager's shoes right now, and trying to figure out that thing. And, I don't know if it is a torn Achilles. We talked to Dr. Crow last hour. Can recover from that. He can be ready by next year. But at his age, is that something he's going to want to rehab from? Is that something that he's going to want to prepare? Maybe the competitor in him doesn't want to go out that way, doesn't want to end his career with an injury. I can certainly see that. I can certainly see Aaron Rodgers not wanting to end his career on an injury. I can also see Aaron Rodgers saying, I'm at peace with it. If he doesn't want to go through that, doesn't want to, rehab or whatever. He has said, especially in the last month, last couple weeks, few weeks, that he can, it's not going to be a one and done sort of thing. But does the injury throw a little bit of a wrench into that plan with him? Does it change things for him? Does his outlook change here a little bit? I honestly wouldn't be surprised either way. I think the competitor in him doesn't want to end his career that way. But at the same time, just, from the personality of his that we have seen over the last few years, I could see him being fully at peace with a decision like that. And maybe a lot of it will kind of go back to what, the what if I just threw out there. Maybe if Zach Wilson goes and plays really well, Aaron will make it less of a complicating decision and be like, all right, I'm gonna call it a career then. A lot of time yet to dissect that and think about that and discuss. And obviously no decisions are going to be made at this point in time, but I think everybody's just kind of, I can't remember off the top of my head And I know that some on social media were doing like the Jets and was it Joe 99? Was it that year? Parcells was there. Belichick was the defensive coordinator. Jets had a lot of optimism that year. Good defense. Keyshawn Johnson, Wayne Corbett. They had a good running attack. They had high expectations that Vinny Testaverde was their quarterback, but he also tore his Achilles, and that kind of, you know, deflated their chances a little bit. I can't remember another team opening up in any sport, opening up their season, and all off season, they were the darlings, they were the hype, they were the talk of the town. The expectations were incredibly high. I can't remember another instance or another player, another team where this happened, where first game, first drive, the big acquisition that you made, the big reason why there's a belief that you are going to win a Super Bowl, first year where that player gets hurt. I can't think of another instance where this happened off the top of my head. I mean, I know, what was it, 08? Was it the 08 season? Yeah. When Brady tore his ACL in his first game, but I mean, Brady was already won a couple Super Bowls and such. But I'm thinking like player who comes in with that much fanfare and the expectations instantly change, and then literally like the first couple plays, the first game, it's all like done. I can't think of another scenario that was like that. I'm sure there is. I can't think of it off the top of my head. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then let's switch it up. We'll talk some college football. RJ Cardinal, he's coming up in just a few minutes. Calling all meat lovers, are you craving quality cuts that make every meal a masterpiece? Well, then look no further than Mike's Star Market. From succulent steaks to juicy burgers and mouth-watering brats, Mike's Star Market offers the finest selection of meats that'll tantalize your taste buds. Their commitment to quality means you will always get the most flavorful products in the area. Don't settle for ordinary when you can shine like a star. Visit Mike's Star Market today at 2238 Heimstead Road in Eau Claire and check out their website at mikesstarmarket.com. Again, big thanks to Mike's, the Elks Club, Elks Lodge, and G-Man for the Backyard Dreams donation from yesterday. Big thanks to them. And don't forget, we got that challenge with just a few more days left. We want to see how many brats we can sell at Mike's Star Market. So portions of the proceeds going to Backyard Dreams, that deadline being the opener of bow season, which is coming up here in just a few days, believe it or not. So, all right, let's talk some college football here this morning. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. Well, RJ, I don't want Washington State in the Big Ten. Can we just stop that? We don't want them in the Big Ten after the last couple years.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you on that point.
Man, what? Okay, so I mean, you've got people obviously very frustrated with the whole thing, from officials to running the football and such. In your opinion, I mean, what happened in that game? What was the most frustrating thing to you about that game?
It's the same problems that plagued us last year during the game, except the defense was a little less, effective. During the first 4 drives, I believe they scored 17 points. Then they took out Kamoy Latu, who seems to be struggling to pick up the new defense. And then the next, I forget how many drives it was, they gave up 15 yards. It was a odd phrasing, but it was a very fickle defense. And I'm not talking it's the same style as the coach. It's just two very different defenses were on the field during Saturday's game. And I mean, that culminated with the third quarter that the Badgers had to put themselves within 2 points of tying it. And then the one thing that was all offseason, the key point was we're going to win four-quarter games. And currently they're 0-1 in 4-quarter games. It was just an overall, they didn't look like they were prepared to even start playing that game. And you can't just work your way into this. The front seven, again, of Washington State was too fast. And yeah, it caused problems. But the one thing I will say, Tanner Mordecai in that game looked like a guy who was making plays that, we really haven't seen in a while. And this is one where, 278 yards and a touchdown, can't really say it was on the quarterback, this one. You can say what you will about those fumbles, but a lot of them, they were blindside hits that, if you can't see that, you really should be relying on Jack Nelson there to be able to protect your backside. And, who knows if the other fumble happened not on the goal line and they fall on it to score near the end of the half. Who knows what happens there? But it's a game where it just seems like there were no real answers. And, there, like I said, there was a personnel change. Kamoy Latu was taken out of the game. And things started to get a little more tight for the defense. They started playing a little better. So who knows what we see. I know there was a depth chart that was put out there, but I really haven't looked at it yet. So I'm not sure if he's listed as the starter still or not. But it's a game that you desired a lot more from rushing, but Braylon Allen is now the leading receiver in the Big Ten with 13 receptions. So, we'll see how we go moving forward from here. But it was definitely one that it did appear this team was not ready to play.
Is that, and I know that we won't know the real answer or the truthful thing or anything like that. But I mean, when it comes to, something like that, is this a wake-up call? I know that's kind of what some people are speculating on there. Were they reading all the hype? Fans were excited for this season coming into it and, the new era. Were they kind of, maybe overlooking opponents? I mean, it's hard to kind of fully answer that, but could this be used as a good wake-up call, do you think, for this team if it's coached the right way?
I hope so. Whether it is or not, I mean, from internal, the videos that we saw they put out and all that, it shouldn't have been a team that is overlooking people. There is a reason. I mean, they basically said there's a reason, we're here. And it's because you went 1-4 in 4-quarter games. And it's like everything we've seen from the outside looking in, this staff wouldn't let them do that. But it's something that, who knows, maybe right now the defensive scheme isn't built for the personnel that's on there. Offensively, they brought in enough talent to overhaul things, and it should be working, but, it still isn't clicking, it seems. You can't go from rushing for 300 and some odd yards and then flip it around and only run for 90. It's something that when you look at it, it just doesn't make sense. It could be an overlooking, but it seems odd for that to happen after watching what this team was going through in the off season.
Did we kind of just maybe set ourselves up for, and that was my biggest concern, RJ, when we were talking about, preseason picks and wins and all that. And a lot of people had them like 11, one loss or something like 11-1 and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, did some people maybe kind of set themselves up a little bit for disappointment in a game like this?
I'm pretty sure a majority of the fan base did. They thought it was going to be new staff, and that's all we needed because the old staff was horrible, even though, they were on the regular winning 9 games and making bowl games. And, Nebraska was doing that and fired a coach, and look where they're at now. So hopefully we aren't the new Nebraska.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those where, I think a lot of people bought into all the hype. And then you go into the whole, what people perceived is the air raid, and they still are trying to figure out what the air raid is. But it's not the air raid. It has air raid principles. The tempo is more air raid. The formation is air raid. And really it's spread, but I mean, this is a offense that still is predicated on being able to be balanced. And so it's not the air raid. So anybody who's at any point in time expecting the air raid to show up here, it's not going to happen. It's a totally different offense. And, there will be days like Saturday where, Washington State still challenged Wisconsin to pass, and they made them pass, and 278 yards, and you couldn't win. So we'll see what happens moving forward here, but you can throw some refereeing decisions in there, but ultimately I'm not sure that's what determined the outcome of this game. I know people said that they could see the ball moving for Ches Malusi. Being at the game there, that was one that all of a sudden, after the play was blown dead, Washington State grabbed the football and started cheering and running off the field, holding the football. And the refs made a decision there. Had they said the play was blown dead, they could have gone to replay and it would have been in Wisconsin's favor, but they made a knee-jerk reaction to Washington State's Washington State's reaction, and then had no evidence of the ball not moving, so it got upheld. So, but for the most part, you can't really blame the refs for it. I can still say there's a little bit of a factor there, but when you come out as flat as you did to start that game, you dug yourself into a hole and really didn't help your case.
Mm-hmm. RJ, I think you kind of alluded to it already, but before I get to the Georgia Southern game here, I think there's some Badgers fans that want to look for some positivity in this thing, and you mentioned Tanner Mordecai. Is that the main positive that you would tell Badger fans right now, or is there something else that you'd kind of give a positive message to?
Nathaniel Vacos, 3 for 3 with a long of 49. We're not going to be punting from our 35 anymore. And that's good. I guess Atticus Bertram averaging 41 yards a punt with putting 2 inside the 20 on Saturday. But, I think the passing game can come along. And I think there maybe were some first game jitters there from Mordecai, and yes, he lost 2 fumbles. But like I said, it's hard to hold on to a football when you think you have time. Mm-hmm. He wasn't protecting the football, and some people say he should feel that presence, but he's still getting used to this new offense as well. So I mean, if you think you can rely on your left tackle, you're not really looking over your shoulder too much. But yeah, I did like what I saw out of Mordecai. It's not his turnovers didn't lose us that game. And granted, one of them turned into a fumble into the end zone for a touchdown. That's beside the point. He had plenty of other opportunities to make the passing game work, and almost 300 yards, 278. I think it was a good day for him. And I think we saw in the third quarter what this offense can be. And it's just now a matter of making that offense a 4-quarter offense. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, if you get slow starts again, you're not going to be winning very many games.
Mm-hmm. RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst, joining us here this morning. So, all right, Badgers return to Camp Randall for a date against Georgia Southern. Then next Friday, they begin their Big Ten portion of the schedule. I don't think we shouldn't have to worry about Badgers overlooking Georgia Southern after a loss to Washington State here, RJ. But what is the biggest threat maybe that Georgia Southern does give Wisconsin, if there is any threat whatsoever?
Well, it's another one where if you get off to a slow start on the defense, Georgia Southern is averaging 308 passing yards a game and scoring 41.5 points per game in their first 2 games of the season. Now, granted, I believe that was the Citadel and UAB, but and they kind of went out 49-35 against UAB and then shut out the Citadel for their first game of the year. But it's one of those. This is a team that beat Nebraska last year, beat James Madison last year when James Madison was ranked, and then beat Appalachian State this year. So they have some capabilities of winning, and it's compare those teams I just reeled off to Wisconsin however you want, but they have the capability of putting up points. And now, granted, those games I also listed off were kind of shootouts. They were all 1-score games. So it's a team that is, outside of their rush game, they still average over 100 yards rushing a game, 300 yards passing a game, and their scoring defense is top 25. So, or scoring offense is the top 25. Now, their scoring defense is doing well because there's a shutout in there, but it's a team that I think shouldn't have Wisconsin should have an issue with, but the defense and the ability to, this team's putting up, like I said, 308 yards per game. That's a little scary there. You would hope this defense can handle them, but we also need this defense to show up right away. We need the offense to show up right away. I think it's one of those, if you're prepared to play this game, it shouldn't be one that's in doubt. But at this point in time, after watching 2 games, I can't say this team's going to come out in the first quarter and look like a football team that should be stomping a lesser opponent. So it's one of those. It's a game I cannot confidently say Wisconsin's going to run away with.
Interesting. Before I get to your prediction here, RJ, I got to ask you, because I know you love this phrase, but is Texas back now after their win against Alabama?
I think we'll have to wait because it seems after one win every year, somebody says Texas is back. And, there could be a lot of factors that played into that win, but it certainly does seem like those factors are well in favor of Texas being back. And, in the past, it's been with wins over teams who aren't at the caliber of Alabama. And you're like, are they though? Because that win's a little not on the radar of what it should mean to be back as a top 10, top 15 team in the country. So I'll tentatively be on the side of their back. So, I'm kind of on the dot plot. I'm more near the center line than full on into being back. But it was an impressive win on the road, and we'll see what happens with them moving forward. But I saw a lot of people tweeting out Paul Chryst just got a win over Alabama.
I was just going to say, it's got to be Paul
there
Chryst
is
is the
that.
reason, right? Paul Chryst is the
Yeah.
reason.
Yep.
I know it's only a couple weeks into the season so far, RJ, but overreactions or anything like that. Has there been a team that's really surprised you the most or disappointed you the most, or is it still kind of too early to tell for you?
A surprise is Colorado, but there's also the look at the teams they played.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, TCU was playing for the national championship last year, but they lost a lot of talent last year as well. So who really knows the gauge on that one? Jeff Sims looks absolutely lost in the Nebraska offense. So it's one of those as well. I'm surprised Nebraska stuck around as long as they did in that game over the weekend. But clearly Nebraska's defense looks all right. They just were on the field way too much against Colorado, and that showed in the second half. But no matter what everybody's saying, no matter what you think about Dion, he's got those guys playing. Now, I never agreed with how he entered that. You didn't have to record that and make his first meeting public about saying you guys are all gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't agree with that at all. But in this day and age, a quick fix is available for you. They did bring in a lot of talent with only 10 scholarship players returning from last year, and I think one, at least that's what they were making it seem like in the TV broadcast, one starter returning from last year. So it'll be interesting to see that moving forward because they play Colorado State this weekend, and I don't know why everybody's flocking to Boulder for this game.
Right.
It's a 21-point spread, and they should dominate Colorado State. But then they head to Eugene in 2 weeks, so it'll be interesting to see when they go up against Oregon how that plays out. It's odd, but prior to the season starting, I didn't think I'd be talking about Colorado at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, staying within that game, transfer quarterback Jeff Sims, is not where it's at. And, the fact that they couldn't make a move to quarterback down the line lets you know where Nebraska's quarterback room is. So, I mean, it might be under year one of Rule. They don't win a lot of games due to their offense. But yeah, it's just an interesting college football season so far.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting games. I was looking at the schedule earlier this morning here, RJ. I mean, I know Penn State's ranked 7th, but they're going to Illinois. Could that be a tricky game for Penn State? And then Minnesota visiting North Carolina this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Penn State because we've seen Penn State roll in there before, or Illinois roll into Penn State before, and have some like just fist fights that are nowhere near watchable college football. But after watching what Kansas did to Illinois, it's one of those. I'm wondering how much the defensive losses for Illinois were, because it was 3 or 4 secondary starters were taken in the NFL draft this past year, and it's a lot of new guys there who, by the time you get to the end of the season, they could be able to be coached up there. But it's one of those, like, it was a little worrying from a defensive standpoint for Illinois, watching Kansas pretty much have their way with them for 3.5 quarters, and then they started coming back a little bit, but ultimately the damage was done. And then Minnesota going out to North Carolina, beating Nebraska doesn't look like it was any good. And then last week, who did they play last week? It was a non-conference game that they just walked away with. Eastern Michigan.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's 2 games that kind of were unimpressive.
Yeah.
Where you look at it and you're just like, you had your transfer, the running back from the MAC, run all over a MAC school, but yet he couldn't even put up 60 yards against Nebraska. And like I said earlier, Nebraska's defense seems to be their strong point this year, so it'll be interesting to see, if given time to get rest, where Nebraska goes. But still, it wasn't 2 impressive wins for Minnesota. And you look at North Carolina, and it's one of those games where North Carolina, having beaten South Carolina, who had some hype going into the year, but then had a close game against Appalachian State, it could be one of those that we're seeing a close game, but it's also one of those where I think quality opponent leans more towards North Carolina, and I don't think Minnesota's defense is on par where it has been the last few years either. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think it's one of those we ultimately see North Carolina come out on top. So yeah, it's a good weekend because and then Washington State gets to go play, or Washington gets to go play Michigan State after that whole news broke with Mel Tucker. So yeah, it'll be an interesting day, and we'll even see if Iowa can put up enough points to be on pace for 25 points per game.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, RJ, right before I let you go here quickly, what's your prediction for the Badger game?
Oh man, it's one I don't want to make. I think we still see Wisconsin win, but it's one of those games. I think it'll be closer than people think, mostly because I don't know if I can trust this team to pull away from anybody. I like Wisconsin, but 25-21.
Ooh, okay. So there you go. RJ Cardinal, Badger analyst. Good stuff as always, buddy. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up with you again soon, okay?
All right, sounds good. We will talk to you later.
You got it. RJ Cardinal, Zone in Madison. We're going to take a quick break and finish up this Tuesday show after these quick words. Do you believe that everyone deserves a safe and decent place to call home? At Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity, they share this belief and they work tirelessly to make it a reality. Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity is a nonprofit organization dedicated to building homes and communities for families in need. With the help of generous donors, dedicated volunteers, and partnerships with local communities, they're able to bring hope and stability to those who need it most. Imagine the joy on a family's face as they step foot into their new home, a home that they've worked alongside volunteers to build. It's a life changing moment that fills hearts with gratitude and hope for a brighter future. But we need your help. Whether you can spare your time, donate funds, or offer your skills, every contribution counts. Together, they can make a lasting impact. Be a part of something greater than yourself. Visit cvh4h.org or stop by the Restore to learn more. Together, let's build homes, build hope, and build a better future for families in need, because everyone deserves a place to call home. All right, we only got about 5 minutes to the top of the hour here. Tonight, Brew Crew taking on the 4-game series continues. Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers. 19 more games left to go in this regular season. Magic number 16 for the Brew Crew to win the division over the Cubs. Cubs going up against the Rockies tonight. So another big game coming up here. Can the Brewers bats continue to stay alive? I think now, I mean, at what point do you almost want the offense to really start to get it going and get it humming, so you're getting in a groove before the postseason starts here. I mean, at some point, no, 12 runs last night, awesome, cool. But, not asking for 12 runs every single night, not asking for double digits every single night, but with his starting pitching staff, I mean, you'd think a few runs, couple runs, even at times would be enough. But I think now that we're officially under 20 games left to go in the regular season, let's start to see some momentum building. Let's start to see, getting on some runs here where because how many times have we said it? When it comes to the baseball postseason, those teams that enter that postseason playing some of their best baseball, riding a lot of momentum, man, those are the teams that can get to the World Series. Look at Philly last year. I know they lost the World Series, but look at the Nationals a few years ago, riding that momentum. So I think right now, if you're the Crew, you're looking for that momentum on the offensive side of things to kick it in gear and kick it going. Maybe a Josh Donaldson, who made his Brewers debut. Maybe he can provide a little bit more of a spark and a little bit more power in there. He did get a hit last night, but I'm skeptical on it. I don't know how much he can help provide for this ball club in terms of adding another power bat to the lineup. I mean, it's a low risk situation here, but I'm not putting a whole lot of stock in that one. They can't seem to find, how many third basemen have they gone through this year? I'd have to look that up, but Luis Urias, Brian Anderson, Monasterio, now Donaldson. They've gone through a few of them here to try to find something consistent over there. Monasterio's gone through, runs where he's been a pretty good bat, but I think they're looking for a little bit more pop at that position. So, all right, coming up tomorrow on Wednesday, we'll recap whether the Brewers picked up another win or not, how Freddie Peralta looked and such. Hopefully another fantastic outing, another good outing from Fastball Freddie, Strikeout Freddie there. And then look ahead to Game 3 coming up here too. Game 3 between Brewers and the Marlins. Countdown's officially on now that we're under 20 here. Also, we'll do some stock reports tomorrow. Whose stock is rising and whose stock is falling. Play along with us. I got quite a few of them now that you are, with the week 1 fully in play or fully in the books, for the NFL season. So probably got some stock risers, stock fallers for that, or in the college football world too. So, oh boy, now I'm seeing this on Twitter. There's a video of Tom Brady shooting hoops at some place called Summit in New York. So I know people are wondering about the Jets sort of down. Good Lord. So stop. Just stop. Oh, can you imagine though? Can you imagine if that were to happen? Good Lord, the national shows and everything out there couldn't stop. Man, that would be one of the most shocking things if Brady, especially after just going back to New England and having his thing to say, yeah, I'll go play for the Jets now. That ain't happening. It's not happening. I'll bet G-Man's 401k on that. That ain't happening. So, all right. We only got about a minute left here, so I don't want to get too deep into it, the conversation here, but still awaiting the official word about Rodgers' injury, but all indications are that it is a severe Achilles injury. Just waiting for the official word that it would potentially end his season there. Big thanks to Dr. Crow for joining us on a Tuesday edition of Inside the Training Room, breaking it down for us and kind of giving us maybe a little bit of a background of what's going on, what potentially could be going on with Rodgers right now too. So big thanks to Dr. Crow for jumping on early this week and educating us. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. DP and Danettes, they're up next. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.